My name is Samantha and I'm a member of the Insight team, and today I'm going to walk you through the brand new Assessment Data Explorer feature in the Insight application. The purpose of this feature is to allow you to look at student performance levels on selected assessments and to review their performance for a specific test administration. So to start on this page, I am going to select the Grade 11 ELA Beginning of Year Assessment and Administration. Then you'll select your comparison group. By default, this will be selected as city. You can also select from borough, district, and superintendency. For this example, I'm going to leave it as city. You will have the option of choosing a teacher or looking at this data for all teachers for whom this assessment was administered. So you can use the drop-down to select one teacher, or I'm going to leave this as all teachers for this example. Once you've selected from those drop-downs, you can scroll down to the first section on this page, and that is on administration windows. Here you will find information about the administration windows for the selected performance task. It provides information about the number of times that this assessment is administered throughout the year and the dates for those administrations. The administration that you have selected from your drop-down at the top will be bolded. So here it says beginning of year, BOY, and that is the one that I've selected from the drop-down. And if any of these administrations were active or in progress, you would see that information highlighted in blue in this section here. Then we scroll down to the performance section of the page, and here is where you're going to find the bulk of our data available on this page. There are two ways to look at the New York City performance task results, by traits or by standards. By default, this page shows traits first, and you can always toggle to see standards using this toggle up at the top. I'm going to toggle it back to traits, and we are going to start there. So beneath that, you'll find a description of the standards, and you can use this drop down here to select from among the different traits for this assessment to read about the standards assessed in that trait. If I switch to a different trait, you see that the standard and description adjusts. Beneath that is our performance bands by traits visualization. Underneath the title, you'll find a description title that tells you the number of students who took the selected assessment. At this school, that is 107 students. And then we have our legend. The legend section describes the color of each stacked bar segment used in the performance bands charts below. A red bar means no evidence that the student scored 0 points. Orange represents attempting standards, meaning the student scored greater than 0 to 1 point. The tan bar is approaching standards, meaning the student scored greater than 1 to 2 points. Turquoise is meeting standards. The student scored greater than 2 to 3 points. And the blue bar is exceeding standards, meaning the student scored greater than 3 to 4 points. Please note that not all traits include the performance band of exceeding standards. In that case, you will see a note here as a second sentence beneath the title telling you that the rubric for this assessment does not include exceeding standards, and it will list the applicable traits for which exceeding standards is not available. Similar to other features across Insight, you also have a gray bar in this legend that represents the comparison group that you chose. So again, this says city because that is the comparison group selected from the very beginning. You would see that my comparison group adjusts accordingly, as did my visualization below. And then we also have from our legend the hashed bar, and that is representing our subgroups, which again, familiar across lots of features in Insight, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Also from this legend, you can uncheck or check any of the boxes for these performance bands so that you can remove them from the trait stacked bars below. This will help you to just focus in on one standard or performance band at a time. So if that's helpful, that is an option to you. You can also remove the comparison group from the visualization to help you hone in as well. Now that we've gone through the legend, let's go through these stacked bars. For each of the traits, you're going to see two stacked bar charts by default. The top one is a colored stacked bar, which represents all or 100% of the students who took the assessment. And the different colored segments show the percentage of students who are in each performance band, the ones that we just went over and that is available in the legend, among all of the students who took the assessment. And then the gray scale bar below is showing the comparison group. Again, with different gradients of gray representing the students from that comparison group who fall within the different performance bands. If I hover over my all students, my colored bar chart, you will see a written description of these percentages. So for trait 1 for this particular assessment at this school, 52% of students showed no evidence, 5% attempted, 17% approached, 25% met, and fewer than 1% exceeded standards on trait 1. Again, another familiar aspect of this visualization across lots of features in the application is the ability to click on any of these colored segments and see a student list appear on the right-hand side comprised of those students that fall within the particular performance band that you've selected. I clicked on the red portion, so you see the no evidence red filter option here on the student list, and below that is listed the 56 students that make up 52% of the student population that took this assessment, who fall within the no evidence performance band for trait 1 of this assessment. Like all student lists in the application, you can sort this list A to Z, Z to A for last name of the student, and high to low, low to high for the score. You can also export the list to a CSV file or open it in different features of the Insight application. You can also click on more than one of the segments of these bars. So for example, if I wanted to focus on my students who both attempted standards and showed no evidence, I could click on both the red and the orange, and my student list has adjusted accordingly. And this information is the same across the rest of the traits below. Now let's scroll back up and use that toggle to look at all of this information by standards. And I'm going to toggle to the standards view of all of this data. Each New York City performance task assesses a particular set of domains or anchor standards. And in the performance bands by standard section, each domain or anchor standard contains a set of stacked bars, just like we saw in the traits version. So to start, we have our description of standards section. This time we will select from this drop-down an anchor standard. So let's choose text types and purposes, and we'll see how the description of standard adjusts to provide that information. And then we can scroll on down to the performance bands by standard. This visualization will look very similar to the traits one we just talked about, but this time we are looking at our standards as opposed to traits. So like the traits view, you will see a description of the number of eligible students, just like before, 107. We have the same legend as the traits section, and then we have our 2 stacked bars, this time 2 for every domain or anchor standard within this assessment. Again, this color stacked bar represents all students who took the assessment, and the gray represents our comparison group. Just like before, we can hover over any of the colored bar charts and see a written description of this information, and we can click on one or more of the segments in the bar in order to see the student list appearing on the right-hand side. Same functionality applies here. This list is sortable, exportable, and openable. You can open it in different features of the application. One business rule here that I want to mention, because we're looking at this information by standards, is that if a student, when the standard is assessed in more than one trait, the different colored segments here represent the percentage of students who are in each performance band after averaging their scores of those traits where the standard is assessed. This is different than if the standard is assessed in just one trait, in which case the different colored segments will represent the percentage of students who are in that performance band for their score on that trait. We're not averaging because it's just assessing one trait, as opposed to if it's assessed in one or more or two or more traits, we are averaging. That's everything on this page that I want to go over with you today. I know there is a lot of data on this page. Feel free to obviously join me here with this webinar again if you need to. And also always remember that there is a written version of this information up here linked in the top for understanding the charts. And then here is that video tutorial link that you probably clicked on to view this before. Thanks again for joining me, and have a great day.